For 11 years, Sandra Boss believed she was married to a man from one of the most powerful families in America. A man with money, connections, and a famous name. But none of it was real. The man she trusted, who slept in her house, the one who raised her daughter, never existed. In the mid-1990s, Sandra Boss was living a successful life. She was a Stanford graduate. She was studying for her MBA at Harvard. She was smart, ambitious, and well-connected. Through her sister, Sandra was introduced to a man named Clark Rockefeller. He claimed to be a descendant of the famous Rockefeller family. He dressed the part, custom-made suits, expensive art, an upscale apartment in New York City. He spoke confidently. He carried himself like someone who belonged in elite spaces. Sandra was charmed, not just by his money, but by his calm confidence. Before long, they were married. For the next 11 years, they lived together as husband and wife. On the surface, their life looked stable. Sandra worked as a consultant and earned well. Clark stayed home. In 2001, they had a daughter. Her name was Rye Starro Mills Rockefeller. They called her Snooks. But slowly, cracks began to show. Clark didn't work. He spent freely. He relied almost entirely on Sandra's money to maintain his image. And his stories didn't always make sense. Details changed. Timelines shifted. Answers felt rehearsed. Still, nothing felt dangerous. Just off. By 2007, Sandra had had enough. She filed for divorce. When the court looked into Clark's background, something strange came up. He had no clear employment history, no verifiable identity. Because of this, Sandra was granted full custody of their daughter. Clark was allowed only limited, supervised visits. And that's when everything fell apart. In 2008, Clark arrived for one of his court-approved visitations. A social worker was present. Sandra waited nearby in a hotel room. Then, without warning, Clark grabbed his daughter, ran outside, jumped into a limousine, and disappeared. The social worker was left behind. Within minutes, police were alerted and a nationwide search began. Investigators tried to track Clark Rockefeller, and immediately, they hit a wall. He had no social security number, no driver's license, and not even a credit card in his name. It was as if he didn't exist. When his photo appeared on the news, people called in with tips. But the tips didn't match. Different names and stories. At least 4 separate identities were reported. Police realized they weren't chasing a kidnapper. They were chasing a ghost. Then, a friend came forward with a small detail. The night before Clark disappeared, he had been at the friend's house. He drank a glass of wine. The glass was never washed. Police collected it. They lifted fingerprints. And finally, they got a match. The name attached to those prints was Christian Karl Gerhartsreiter, a German immigrant. And that was just the beginning. Christian Gerhartsreiter had come to the United States nearly 30 years earlier. As a teenager, he stayed with a family in Connecticut. He claimed to be an exchange student. No one questioned it. Later, he married and divorced, gaining a green card. Then he moved to California and changed his name. In Los Angeles, he became Christopher Chester. He told people he came from British royalty, that he worked in television production. He lived in the guest house of a woman named Dee Dee Sohus. On the same property lived her son, John Sohus, and John's wife, Linda. In 1985, John and Linda disappeared. Soon after, Christopher Chester vanished too. No answers, no arrests, just silence. Under the name Christopher Crow, he moved again, this time to Wall Street, a place where he didn't belong. He had no degree, no experience, no social security number. Yet somehow, he landed high-level jobs. And just as quickly, he was fired. People began asking questions. So he disappeared. Again, years later, he resurfaced in Sandra Boss's life. As Clark Rockefeller, a wealthy heir, a family man, a lie wrapped in confidence. It worked for 11 years. Until the kidnapping. Police searched for Clark and the missing child. For 5 days, the country watched. Then a tip came in. The owner of a carriage house recognized the man staying there. He had been calling himself Chip Smith. Police moved in. Snooks was found alive. Christian Karl Gerhartsreiter was arrested. The full story finally came together. The man Sandra married had lived under false identities for decades. He wasn't a Rockefeller. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't who he claimed to be. He was a fugitive hiding in plain sight. Christian Gerhartsreiter was convicted of kidnapping his daughter, the murder of John Sohus, He was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. For 11 years, Sandra Boss lived beside a stranger. She shared a home with him, trusted him, raised a child with him, and never knew his real name. Sometimes, the most dangerous lies aren't loud. They're calm, confident, and patient. They wait until there's nowhere left to hide. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more videos like this.